What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. But before we do, I just want to play this because I thought that it was absolutely hilarious. So,
Here at the South Park Leering Center, we're not just retarded, we're Minnesota retarded. Ilhan Omar was educated here, and she's completely retarded. And I know this might come as a surprise, but I, myself, am retarded.
oh. I think it's hilarious that whenever Ilhan Omar, the animated version here, whenever she talks, I think it's hilarious that it's like a goat bleeding. Like I think it's funny. Anyways, 600, or maybe it's like a sheep bleeding, whatever. $633. Shout out to the Dragon Riders, House of the Dragon. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. This is funny, man. I mean, if you can't laugh at this, I don't care who you are. If this offends you so much that you can't enjoy it as humor, that's sad, man. That's sad. You don't even have to believe everything that's being said in this for it to be funny. I believe it. I 100% approve this message. but you don't have to agree with it. Just don't be so cynical, right? Like it's all comedy. It's South Park. They make fun of everybody. But it's pretty funny, and I do approve that message. I think that it's very accurate. Anyways, here we are, $632. Shout out to the Dragon Riders and the House of the Dragon. Here we are, 9 hours, 11 minutes left in the day. We are on the cusp, my friends. We're so close. I mean, we clearly have broken out of this channel here. We're now in a channel to the upside, okay? We've gotten to a point where we're looking to break out of this range overall as a whole. We've gotten to the point where we're getting just above there and looking like we want to break out and move higher. But we're pulling back a little bit, and I think this was to be expected. This is something that we saw coming from these highs over here. So being down here at $630 right now, this is a very possible area to find support. We've wicked down and we found support right here at prior points of resistance here, and continue to grow afterwards. It's very possible. I want to look at the 1 hour time frame and see if we are showing signs of readiness to move up. I want to look at the 4 hour time frame and zoom out from there and just see what we're looking like overall. So hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get into it. Okay, 1 hour time frame here, $632, moving down. Volume is also moving down as we're moving down, right? It's funny, the volume is coming in when we're moving up, but when we're moving down, there's no volume. Makes me think that we're going to move up again. Makes me pretty damn excited here, right? Think of volume as like validation. There's more validation to the upside. There's less validation to the downside. Nobody wants to sell. Everybody wants to buy. You hear what I'm saying? 1 hour time frame, looking at the RSI here. Overbought several times without getting oversold. Now you've hit the oversold zone. We're crowding the 50 here. It's just kind of interesting, the dynamic here that's at play. We get to the overbought zone here, we hit the 50, we bounced immediately. We hit the 50, we bounced immediately. We consolidated a little bit, but we bounced more or less rather immediately there and went up, right? We weren't even hitting the 50 here. We got overbought and we continuously stayed up here. Versus here, we hit the 50 and we're just consolidating here. We continue to hit the 50 and we're not getting oversold again like we got overbought here. We didn't even hit the 50 here. It seems as though, all I'm trying to say by this is, it seems as though that even though we are in a kind of weak area in the RSI right now, being below the 50 predominantly right here, getting oversold, even having somewhat of a downtrend, lower highs, lower lows, this whole thing right here, we're still just overall very, very bullish. It seems like you're having bearish moments here, rejecting the 50 consistently, but none of these rejections, which typically a rejection of the 50 would lead you to getting oversold, none of them are doing that. So I would assume that we do move up, we do reclaim the overbought areas, and we probably do see more price action like this, or more readings like this on the RSI. So yeah, I'm bullish over the coming days. Absolutely I am. We can come down from here, it's possible, but the stochastic suggests otherwise. The MACD also suggests otherwise. Why does the MACD suggest otherwise? Why do the stochastics suggest otherwise? Well, stochastics are crossed up. We bounced off the oversold zone, so that's bullish. The MACD is crossed up, which is bullish in itself, but you are below the zero. That is technically bearish. Overall, I don't care if you're green or red or whatever. If you're below the zero, you're bearish. If you're above the zero, you're bullish. It's not that cut and dry, but more or less that's how I analyze it. When we're doing this, where you're pulling back and you're bouncing, pulling back and you're bouncing, and you're getting these touch points and you're bouncing, stuff like that, like here, that these little touch points, and then you move up like that, little touch points like that, and you move up. That's typically what you see when you're confirming a bullish trend whenever you're trying to turn things around and move to the upside. So I do think here, I think if we wanted to move lower, we would have. We were moving lower. Now we're moving sideways. We kind of have like a double bottom right here, and we're probably going to move up. That's my expectation. We look at the 4-hour time frame. The RSI is at the same levels that we found support at before. You look at BCH here. We've got these higher lows. This kind of dynamic here. I mean, this is exactly, we were talking about this the other day. This is exactly what we were looking for. This is exactly where we would expect to find support, right at the 42. It's perfect. It's literally perfect. Stochastics, they're a little bit, I would say, bearish at the moment, but you're a few good hours away from being bullish. And the MACD is bullish divergence. You have lower lows in the price with higher lows in the MACD. Your bullish divergence, that's bullish. You are cross red, but guess what? You've seen as deep of a histogram reading as you have any of these other times. That's bullish to me, right? In other words, every single time, let's just put this real quick, that you've been here. Oh, come on. That you've been maybe here, 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 and here. You've been at relative low points. Maybe not the low, but here, relative low point. Here, you weren't at the low. You did continue to go lower. You were kind of at a downtrend overall. The RSI was set up differently too. And the stochastics were bearish. You weren't getting overbought, but you weren't getting oversold. But relative low point there, you did go lower. I guess none of these, actually, now that we're looking at this, none of these really actually gave us the relative low, did they? Wow. This one kind of did. This one did. But a lot of these you actually did move lower afterwards. So that's something to consider as well. Okay, cool. Nonetheless, we're definitely near the end of this, and even if we do go lower, the amount of lower that we go is not going to be significant at all. We're going to move up, but interesting. Interesting. Getting carried away with my thoughts here, but looking at this, it wouldn't be surprising at all if the oscillators came back down to the zero and we bounce off the zero, or we go just below it like we did here. Each of those times that we go just below it, that is a point at which we do turn around, right? That this point in the histogram is a point at which we typically go lower, it seems. But the points here where we are just below the zero and we're starting to cross up, maybe not this one, maybe not that one there, but right here and right here, because we're going just below the zero, I would assume that we're going to come down just below the zero here as well, right there. Come on. Just below the zero. That was a relative low, but we kept going lower. Was a relative low, we kept going higher. Relative low, we kept going higher at that moment there. So we're getting very close. I do think the MACD is bullish overall, but maybe the MACD is telling us that we could go lower, or at the very least consolidate until we get some kind of readings like this. So I would assume then maybe we get a weekend pump. Maybe we don't start pumping until Friday, but it is Wednesday, so I don't expect much over the next day or two. Does that make sense? All that to say, if I'm wrong and we move up today, great, that's awesome. I would love that. But I think it's quite possible that we do continue to go down, or that we maybe even move sideways. We have some kind of reaction like that. We'll see. But again, these levels in the MACD that we're seeing right now, they typically correlate with these moments, with these moments, with these moments here, right? You didn't, and those low histogram readings, whenever we first get to them, it's typically at the beginning of these moments. It's like the first part of all these moments. So I think that we, just relative to all these low points here, I don't think that we've been here for too long. I think that we could continue to go down. And with that, I mean, we look at this from a higher low perspective, kind of, drawing. I'm not drawing the best line, but we could go lower and still find support. Let's see. Daily time frame. While I do approve the idea of finding support here, it's not a problem if we go lower. Okay. Low to high. We could go to the 236 at $606. Hell, we could go all the way down to $570. I doubt that we do, But from here, I suppose calling for prices around or closer to $600, but maybe just above there, makes sense. I'm not convinced that we go terribly lower, but I am convinced that we could bleed out a little bit over the next day or two, and then maybe even over the weekend. And then sometime either over the weekend or beginning next week, we should be moving higher. I would expect, let's see, because next week ends on the 18th. I would expect before the 18th, we will see Bitcoin Cash above $700 before the 18th. It's the 7th now, so maybe even before the 17th, maybe in the next 10 days or so. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I don't know if I have anything else that I want to say. Daily RSI rejecting the overbought zone. That's not good, but it's not like, let me rephrase that. It's not ideal. Typically, when you reject that, if you are looking to produce, why can't I talk? If you're looking to produce higher readings, if you're looking to produce higher prices, you bounce off the 60 or you bounce off the 50. Sometimes you bounce off the 40. But we're looking for a bounce either here, which again, looking at the MACD on the 4 hour and looking at some of the readings, I mean, on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, things are set up bullishly enough where we could bounce here and move up higher. But we could also come down to the 50 and that's fine. We could also come down to the 40 and that's fine as well. So however long it takes, I would expect it's probably the 50 that we do bounce from on the daily time frame there. Stochastics are shifted down, a little bit bearish there, and the MACD is bullish overall, but again, we can cool off a little bit and then continue to rally. At the end of the day, weekly MACD is crossed green. We're building another week of bullish momentum here. The stochastics are overbought and the RSI is yet to get overbought. We definitely have a lot more to go. Typically, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but typically whenever you get overbought, that represents a breakout. Typically it represents a breakout. It doesn't always represent a breakout, but given the context of this giant consolidation phase that we've seen here, I would assume getting overbought will directly correlate with the breakout of this range. And we are one good week away from that. I don't think it'll be this week, but I do think it'll be next week. Anyways, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.